Platforms. Good morning. It is Saturday morning. I'm trying in portrait mode today on the computer. So if you are on YouTube or X or one of those other platforms that's not TikTok, you're going to be seeing me in portrait. Just a test, like everything we need to test, see what works best. Let me just go live on Instagram because that requires additional steps because it's a pain in the butt. There we go. That is on. So I'm now live on YouTube, X, Instagram, TikTok, and probably someone else. Facebook, that's the one. I'm still not going live on LinkedIn because their interface is an absolute nightmare, and I can't be bothered to deal with it. Also, I don't really like the LinkedIn platform, so why bother to put myself through all of that? So that is live. Everything is set up. Should be able to hear me. Overlaid. Fantastic. So the first thing I wanted to talk about today was, again, it's an announcement that I have released a book. This is the book here. Hello, Maru. Hello, Abby. This is the book here. It is currently, let me pull it up live. It's doing really well. And it's up against some like really big books in the industry. So here we go. It is currently number 3 in web marketing on Amazon. It's number 5 in e-commerce business. And earlier I looked it up on starting a business. Starting a business is a much larger category on Amazon, and on starting a business it was number 49, which is way down, but it's such a massive category that to even rank to appear in the top 100 there is extremely exciting. So yeah, the book is at number 3 in web marketing, number 5 in e-commerce business, and number 17 in e-commerce web marketing, whatever that is, and number 48 in starting a business. But that means I'm up against like Alan Dibb, The One-Page Marketing Plan, which is an amazing book, Hook Point by Brendan Kane, again an amazing book, and Russell Brunson's .com Secrets. I'm above that. That's amazing. I'm also above the Dummy's Guide to Starting a Business, which just feels absolutely crazy. So this book, if you buy the physical version, it's about £10 or $10. That's because I need to pay Amazon to print it and send it, so it costs more money. I don't make much from that. But if you buy the Kindle version, it's £2 or $2. What I would really, I'm not allowed to ask for this, but I'd really like help getting reviews because nobody's reviewing them at the moment. So if I could get some reviews, good or bad. One, I'm not allowed to ask for good reviews, but two, I'm not interested in people just reviewing it 5 stars for the sake of it. I do want feedback. So if you have grabbed a copy of this, which is $2 on Kindle, then yeah, shoot me a review. That'd be really useful. Hey, Sash. Hi, Sarah, Stacy. Maharaja says, when are they going to consolidate all social platforms together? It's a really good question. The context of that is I'm currently streaming on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter all at the same time. I'm doing live streaming to 5 different sources. Earlier on in the week, I thought I was going to have 5 different cameras, 5 different telephones looking at me. So I actually asked my friends and family, can you send me your old phones? And loads of people have old iPhones just lying around. So I was going to have like this range of cameras in front of me, like a complete sociopath. But thankfully I found a way to do it with just 2 cameras. So I have my telephone in front of me, TikTok, that I'm looking at now. And then when I look slightly up, that's me looking to YouTube, X, Facebook, there's so many of them, and Instagram. They're on a different camera, which is mounted on the top of my telephone. So the whole thing is a little skew with, but it's doing the job. So if you do see me looking up and down a bit, that's why. I also have my computer down here. So if I'm looking down here, that's why I'm looking down here. I'm going to start to consolidate the setup and make it a bit better. So I'm looking around less in the future. However, this is my first week of streaming. I think this is stream number 5. So it's all very ad hoc. I'm very much a believer in don't wait until you have the perfect systems, but just start. So at the beginning of this week, I had a plan, which was do my first live stream. And I had it planned in for Wednesday, and I was going to work out what does that look like? What am I going to talk about? What are the sections going to be? Do I need guests, etc.? I started planning it all in great detail. And then on Monday morning, I was just like, sod it, just do it, and just turned on TikTok and started doing it and realized that it's not that hard. People are very nice here. I get nice comments. I don't have to worry about that kind of thing. And I was able to just talk for about 45 minutes about AI, which is what I would do if I was sitting with friends or sitting with colleagues anyway. Just being able to do it live really opens up that audience. And I think that first live got about 1,000 viewers, which is absolutely mad. So if you are thinking about doing lives, I'd recommend just starting. That's exactly what I've done. I did plan it. I was trying to do complicated things and then realized the best thing is just to start, and then you kind of get over yourself, you get over the ego, you get over the fear of talking on camera like this without anyone else, just chatting. And then you can refine from there. So what I've been doing this week is refining the process, kind of working out how to do the multi-streaming. For the people who are interested, I'm using 2 cameras, as I mentioned, so a telephone, and then I've got a webcam mounted on top. The webcam is connected to my MacBook, which is down here, and the MacBook is connected to something called Restream.io. So I have the Pro version, which I think is $50 a month. It's not cheap, but that allows me to go to 8 different channels all at the same time. So I'm currently on, I don't want to mess it up. Okay, I'm currently on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, but I can also add, let me pull up the list. Yes, I can. I can also add Kick. I can add Twitch. I can add LinkedIn, which is complex. Telegram, apparently they have live streaming on Telegram. That's news to me. I should probably look into that. Amazon Live, D Live, Dailymotion, Trovo, Mixcloud, Kakao TV, Nava. I've never heard of any of these ones. A few Chinese ones like Douyu. Oh, and Steam. Okay, I guess that's for gaming. So at the beginning of the week, I just started just going to TikTok. Got the first 1,000 people in a live there. I actually picked up a subscription, which is amazing. I wasn't expecting that, so that's fantastic. I need to work out what to do with that and what content I'm going to produce as extra. But from there, I've kind of gained in confidence to be able to talk live like this. So if you do run a business and you have some expertise which you think you can share with people, getting their questions and then just talking to camera and answering it, I highly, highly, highly recommend it. The other reason is there's a lot of people in business who are here on TikTok, and you would not expect that to be the case. But when I started on TikTok, must be nearly 4 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks ago, started using it properly, I've actually generated, can I put a number on it? Probably $20,000, sorry, £20,000 worth of additional revenue because of TikTok. So that's included a couple of consulting clients, a speaking gig that I'm going to go and do I'm flying internationally to do it and getting paid for that. But this has all come through TikTok. And really interestingly, lots of the B2B work, they see my TikTok and then they contact me on LinkedIn. So there's like this weird chain that you wouldn't expect where because TikTok has far more reach, you get to a lot more people, including business owners, including people who work at big businesses who want to work with you. But then they go on LinkedIn to check out, oh, is this just some idiot on TikTok who doesn't know what he's doing? Or does he have some kind of background in business? Does he have some kind of background in what he teaches? And then after that sense check, I get messaged on LinkedIn. So it's an acquisition channel for clients and customers that I never thought I would have, going from TikTok to LinkedIn to me directly, but it seems to work really well, and it has led to a lot of business. So if you are a business owner or an entrepreneur, don't sleep on live video. Don't sleep on TikTok. Oh, I noticed my business partner has joined in. Is there going to be an American TikTok version? Maharaja says, yeah, this is the big question right now. So most of my audiences in the UK. So right now, I'm not worrying too much about this. I would say, though, in general, if you build up your skills and if you build up an audience and if you build up the confidence using a platform like TikTok right now, that can be transferred to whatever's next. So even if the American version of TikTok does go away, whether it's purchased, whether it goes out of existence totally, there's going to be something else that steps into its place. That audience is going to go somewhere. That attention is going to go somewhere. So if you build up the skills being on camera and being able to talk about your business, being able to kind of educate and get people excited about what you do, you can transfer that to wherever it needs to be. That's also the reason why I'm restreaming to multiple sources. That's why I'm going to YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter all at the same time, because if one platform decides they ever decide we're not doing live video anymore, or because Congress has voted that app gets taken out of existence. Because of that, you need to have diversification. The flip side of this, though, is that if you are trying to build your audience from scratch, I recommend focusing on one platform, because you kind of need to work out. I know this is I'm saying two different things here, but I think they can both be true. You do need to find a focus where you can build an audience first and foremost, and that becomes your primary platform. For me, that is Twitter. That's always been my primary platform. But then from there, you can branch out into others. And as long as you are using tools like Restream.io, which is what I'm using to stream onto 5 different services right now, or Repurpose.io, which I use to take my short videos and send them to all the other platforms, the additional workload is not that much. But focus on one platform, nail it, whatever it is, and then filter that content out and repurpose it onto the other platforms is really important. So yeah, if TikTok does get banned in America, I personally will lose around 30% of my audience. It's annoying, but I've only been on TikTok for a month, so you know, it's not as annoying for me as it would be for somebody who has millions and millions of viewers. For people who have millions of viewers and who have built a business here, this is going to be massive, especially the American people. Yeah, they are in trouble. I would say if you are just starting out though, start here, start wherever you find easy, wherever you find there is the least friction, build the skills, and then you have those skills which you can transfer to whatever platform. There's always going to be new platforms, like, I mean, Google Plus, GeoCities, like, it doesn't matter. There have always been different platforms, and we will always be moving from one to another, and it's fine. Will we be unalived by robots? I talked about this the other day. Probably not robots, to be honest. So robotics is behind AI at the moment. If AI was going to destroy us, it wouldn't use robotics. It's too inefficient. It would, this is a fun thing to talk about on a Saturday morning. It would disrupt our supply lines. So it would cut food off, it would cut water off, it would poison water, it would use weapons against us. It wouldn't use robots. So Terminator is a nice fanciful vision because it gives, evil AI a face, really scary looking skeleton face. But if AI did decide it didn't need humans, it'd be a lot more mundane. It would be about supply issues. So James is saying, are you at all scared by AI for the human race? This is connected. No, I think, well, for one, it's a technology that already exists and it's out of the bag. So now we need to learn how to deal with it. So whether that's going to be regulation, whether that's going to be deciding how we build our models, we have to work this out. We can't put the cat back in the bag. 2, humans have always been very good at muddling through. We're still here, despite ourselves. We're, millennia of war and climate change and stuff like that. We are still kind of muddling along. We've always had existential threats, whether it's famine, whether it's war, and we've kind of managed our way through. I'm very optimistic that humans will manage to muddle our way through this as well, and we'll come out of it stronger. There's going to be disruption over the next few decades for sure, especially in jobs and what it means to work. Absolutely, there's going to be chaos there, which is why I recommend people start their own business, because there's never been a better time to start a business than when there are big changes happening anyway, and that gives you the diversification of income so you can weather whatever storm is coming. But more broadly, I think AI is an optimistic and exciting development for humanity as a whole, and we will work out how to deal with it. It's just we need these conversations all the time, and it's not going to be the techno-futuristic utopia that we all hope, where we're going to be sitting on the beach drinking Mai Tais, getting our universal basic income and never having to work. It's not going to be that, but it's also not going to be Terminators taking over. It's going to be somewhere in the middle, somewhere a bit more boring, somewhere a bit more mundane, like most humanity and most history is. So I'm not scared. I would say I'm optimistic, but that's a tempered optimism because we still need to work through the complexities and how we integrate AI into life. Well, there's a lot of you here. Can you demonstrate an example of how AI is being applied in a business scenario? So my newsletter is that every single day. I write 1,000 words per day on exactly this, how you can use AI, AIs like ChatGPT to start and grow businesses. So if you look at my newsletter archives, there are literally, I've been measuring it against the Bible. I'm trying to work out when I've written as much as the Bible. Over the last 40 weeks, I think it's 40 weeks old now, the newsletter. So each day is, let's do the maths. So 40 weeks times 5 issues times 1,000. I've written 200,000 words on this. on this topic, how we can use AI in business. This book that I was waving around earlier, which is backwards for you, unfortunately, is Start a Business with ChatGPT. This is $2 on Amazon, the Kindle version, or the paperback version is about £10, $10. This is, unlike most ChatGPT books, it's not just a bunch of prompts. In fact, there's maybe 30 or 40 prompts in this whole 250-page book. Instead, it is literally examples of how AI can be applied in a business setting to both start a business or to grow a business. So it's things like how to publish a book on Amazon. And that is not just telling ChatGPT, write a book for me, but it's instead using ChatGPT to help you plan, help you develop, help you to edit, help you to coach you through the writing process, and then to help you market it as well. So it's not relying on AI to be lazy, but instead relying on AI in a way that allows you to build a sustainable business. So that's what this book is about. So it's Start a Business with ChatGPT by me, Kyle Barmer. This has 4 business models that you can follow. But if you're in my newsletter, I mean, I've done 40 weeks now, so nearly a year. And each week is a different business model or a different application of artificial intelligence in business. So there's lots and lots of examples there. So thank you for that question, Maharaja. You scared? Will we be unalived? Oh, 26 new messages. Ooh. Best AI for students from Noah. Perplexity AI. The problem with ChatGPT is that when it doesn't know something, it tends to just fill in the gaps. ChatGPT is very agreeable. It wants to give you an answer that you will like. And that means even if it doesn't have that particular knowledge, it will tend to fill in the gaps so that what it gives you is very, it sounds like good advice or sounds like a good answer. So because of this agreeableness, we also get inaccuracies, we get biases. You can specify to ChatGPT, do not make anything up. But just the way that it's hard-coded in the background, it still tends to. So Perplexity works around this in one major way, which is that it cites all of its sources. So when it gives you some information that you're going to be including in an essay or for research, it's also going to give you a footnote, and that's going to link back to the original place where it found that information. So ChatGPT does not do that. It's hard to extract from ChatGPT where it's got its information from. This has been a big problem recently where the CTO of OpenAI was asked about their Sora model, so their video generating model. She was asked, so what's the training data? What have you put into this model in order to produce these results? And she refused to answer. Basically, she pulled a face. You should see the meme. She's like, because she knows such a direct question is very dangerous for them. Whereas Perplexity, they're like, these are the sources that we are relying on, and they link to them. So on Perplexity Pro, for example, the other day I was helping someone do some pharmaceutical research. They're not doing writing an essay on pharmaceuticals using Perplexity, but they're using it for research because they want to find information from across the web. And Perplexity gave them 40 sources in its answer. So it's that kind of level of detail and a more scientifically orientated model. So I definitely recommend that for students because you have that level of the granularity of feedback about where the information's come from. So yeah, that is the answer for Noah Silinskas, best AI for students. Best way to teach languages using AI, asking as a language teacher. Now this is going to be a really interesting topic. Can I do this? Okay. So I've lost you there. Best way to teach languages. So this is near and dear to my heart because my first online business was actually helping people to learn Chinese and to learn to read and write Chinese. I was living in China at the time. I had learned Mandarin Chinese, and I created these giant posters that had the most common Chinese characters on them so that people could use these as a visual aid, a learning aid for learning Chinese. I pivoted that when it became too expensive to send the posters all over. It was a failed business. I pivoted the business to a digital product. So I'd sell the PDFs instead, and people could print them and stick them on their walls, and then into courses, so language learning courses. That's where I first got started in online business and digital marketing as well. So for language teachers, we are going to have, So I think what we're going to see is we're going to see chatbots develop. So not just typing, but being able to converse. We already have that with ChatGPT. There's a button in the bottom right of the app where you can talk, and ChatGPT will talk back to you. I think we'll see a progress in that particular direction where I'll be able to do that, but then speak in Chinese, and the AI will be able to hear that and respond to me in Chinese as a native would. So I think the most exciting use of AI will be giving that native practice, speaking practice, which is what a lot of language learners miss at the moment. They spend a lot of time on Duolingo, they spend a lot of time doing exercises, but they don't spend much time actually talking to native speakers unless they use something like italki and they pay to get that kind of access. I think with AI, that's going to be just a massive shift. It's going to give us conversation partners. So we'll have language exchange partners where it's in one direction. They're just teaching us, and that's going to be a very high quality, very very rapid way to progress in the language. So I'm very excited with that. As a language teacher, you have a couple of options here. You could help to build one of these tools because it doesn't exist at the moment. I think whoever builds this first is going to make a lot of money. It will probably be Duolingo. I'm sure Duolingo are working on this because that's the way it's going. I know Duolingo are already investing in AI because they recently let go their whole translation department because they've replaced them with AI. So Duolingo is definitely moving in that direction. So they'll probably build these chatbots where you can have fluid conversations, and like a native, the chatbot will be able to respond to you. I would definitely look at whether you could develop something like this. It's quite a complex one because it's multi-language, but it's not undoable, and it would be vocal, spoken. The really interesting thing would be you'd have to create you'd create a chatbot that knows that it's a teacher and it knows that it's talking to a non-native speaker, so it would give corrections and it would give it would teach as well as just conversing with people. Finding that balance would be probably the complexity in creating a product like that, but whoever cracks that is going to have a very strong business. I'm surprised we haven't seen some of these already, because that's a big market, language learning. Maharaj is asking about privacy policies for businesses with AI. So I work with a lot of corporations and companies, large ones. They're still working this out. Everybody is in the same position where nobody really knows what their policies are. So we had the Artificial Intelligence Act from the EU got published 2 weeks ago, last week, recently. But so they started writing this, I believe I might be wrong here, but I think it was 2018 they started to write it because they're like, oh, we need an act. So it's taken them 6 years to release it. In the interim, ChatGPT came out. So they started to write it in one world where AI existed, but it was kind of behind closed doors. It wasn't publicly accessible. But they've released the act into a different world where we have ChatGPT, we have Perplexity, we have Claude, we have Mistral, we have all these models now open to the public. So this is kind of the problem with safety and regulation, is that it tends to move much slower than the progress of actual pace. So you're always going to have this tension between, we want to use AI to make our business better, because if we don't, companies who are using AI are going to eat our lunch. But at the same time, we want it to be safe. So what are the regulations? What are the safety procedures? I think waiting for governments or groups like the EU to produce this kind of regulation is very slow. And as we see, it has this kind of lag period where it takes 6 years to produce a piece of legislation, which is then passes into law, but it's already, I don't want to be brutal, but it's already out of date. But the day one that they release it is like, okay, that doesn't work for a number of reasons. Obviously, people can disagree with me on this, but what's going to happen is, well, sorry, I can't predict this, but very likely the EU is going to over-regulate. The US will not regulate, and China's not going to regulate, or it's going to regulate internally for the benefit of the government, basically. So we're going to have an arms race between the US and China, with the EU basically being left out, and the UK, we don't really have much here either, unfortunately. That's probably where we're going. So in terms of safety and kind of privacy laws and stuff like that, they're always going to be lagging behind. The American lawmakers will be slow unless they have a knee-jerk reaction like they've just had with TikTok. I think the TikTok ban went through Congress in about 4 days, probably because of the China connection, rather than it being thought through in any particular way. So privacy policy for businesses with AI, though, on a practical level, because we cannot rely on the lawmakers, I would say do not put anything into an AI which is potentially sensitive information. So if it's competitive information, if it is, your financial figures, just don't put it in. You do get additional layers of privacy if you have a paid version of ChatGPT, because then your information is not used to train their model. So that gives you a layer of security. That does rely on you trusting OpenAI. So that's up to you. I would say Microsoft have the next level up. They have something called Microsoft 365, and Microsoft 365 has Copilot built in. Copilot's actually built on OpenAI's ChatGPT because Microsoft own 49% of OpenAI. So Microsoft, they give you something called, it's got a boring name, Commercial Data Protection, Office 365. I've forgotten the name of it. No, I think it is Commercial Data Protection. Yes, here we go. Oh, I found it. It's an overview of Copilot of commercial data protection. If this is a concern for you, the Microsoft ecosystem is more secure. Here we go. Commercial data protection means both user and organizational data are protected. Prompts and responses are not saved. Microsoft has no eyes-on access, and chat data is not used to train the underlying large language model. So what Microsoft are selling to companies who are willing to pay more is a lot more privacy and a lot more data security. So if it is a big concern, I would say don't use OpenAI's ChatGPT, but have a look at Microsoft's suite of products, the Copilot 365 suite. Costs a lot more because it's for enterprise and business clients only, but you do get that level of commercial data protection, so you can feel more at ease giving it information about your business. Carola. Oh, greetings from Chile. What time is it in Chile? It must be either very early or very late. Do you think AI can pass a Turing test? Do you think AGI, so artificial general intelligence, can pass a Turing test? I think that would be one of the requirements. So for those who don't know these terms, we basically have 3 levels of AI. We have ANI, artificial narrow intelligence. That's really what we have right now with something like ChatGPT. ChatGPT is a chatbot built on a large language model. Don't worry too much about the terms, but it has narrow usages. So it's an artificial narrow intelligence. It works within certain remits. An AGI is an artificial general intelligence. That is an AI which can break free of its, so it's the wrong word to use. It's not constrained by narrow parameters, so we could set it to any task. So this is when we get AGIs. This is when we're basically looking at the AI taking control of a computer. This is a very basic example, but it would take control of a computer. It would have internet access. It would probably be able to set up its own bank accounts and stuff like that. And it will be able to act almost like a human because it has full access and it can learn how to do additional things. Right now, ANIs, artificial narrow intelligences, don't have that latitude of movement. So ChatGPT cannot access your web browser and go and do things there. It can't like hop into Word for you and write things out. It's all kind of within a narrow set of parameters, either using the graphic interface on the website or using their API, which allows you to link to other bits of software. AGI, artificial general intelligence, should be different. It will be have a wider control of what it can do. And the kind of definition, let me get the exact one. Basically, when it has the same intelligence as a human being, same or better intelligence as a human being, it is an AGI. So here we go. Artificial general intelligence is a type of artificial intelligence that can perform as well or better than humans on a wide range of cognitive tasks, as opposed to narrow AI, ANI, which is designed for specific tasks. So one of the Carola, sorry if I'm mispronouncing it, has asked, do you think it will be able to pass the Turing test? So the Turing test, I'm going to get the actual definition of it as well, but basically it's when a human observer cannot tell the difference in response between a human responder and an AI. Then the AI would have been, the AI is said to have passed the Turing test because it is indeterminable from a human. You should watch The Imitation Game, by the way. Okay, so the Turing test, originally called The Imitation Game by Alan Turing in 1950, is a test of a machine's ability to exhibit intelligent behavior equivalent to or indistinguishable from that of a human. Turing proposed that a human evaluator would judge natural language conversations between a human and a machine designed to generate human-like responses. The evaluator would be aware that one of the two partners was a machine, and all participants would be separated from each other, so you can't see anything. The conversation would be limited to text only. Okay, so like ChatGPT. So the result would not depend on the machine's ability to render words as speech. That's interesting because now AI is pretty good at that. If the evaluator, here's the key bit, if the evaluator could not reliably tell the machine apart from the human, the machine would be said to have passed the test. So it's like a blind trial where you're talking to a machine and a human, and if you cannot tell the difference, then the machine has passed the Turing test. Arguably, some ANIs have. There was a great website where it didn't really, there's a great website where you could go on and you would talk to a chatbot, and it could either be a human being or it could be a chatbot, an AI responding to you. And it was interesting because everyone who logged onto it, everyone was kind of saying, hey, are you an AI or are you a human? And it was humans talking to each other or a human talking to a chatbot. It was a really cool experiment. It didn't get enough human users though. So annoyingly, I wanted, someone should relaunch it because it was really cool, but this was a year ago. And so people were getting a lot of ChatGPT, or they were getting a lot of AI responses, and it was a bit too obvious. But if you launched it now, that would probably be very different from a year ago. So your actual question, do you think AGI can pass the Turing test? I think for us to define it as an AGI, it would have to pass the Turing test, at least. So yes, otherwise we wouldn't call it an AGI. Maharaja asks, where does AI get its content for answers? I mean, Google. Basically, they've scraped all of Google, so all of the internet, and then also pulled in information from other information repositories like repositories of medical papers and scientific papers using scraping, basically. This has been contested because OpenAI is now a giant company, a multi-billion-dollar company making a huge amount of money, but it's trained on public data. So this is why they've had legal issues with companies like the New York Times, who are saying, wait, hang on, you've taken our information by scraping everything off our pages, and now you are making money from that. So now you owe us money. So this is why I heard a fascinating thing the other day where somebody said OpenAI is now a legal company. It's not just an AI company, but it's going to be, they're going to have to pour a huge amount of resources and time and money into legally challenging and being allowed to use all this data, which is a reason why they need to be this big, because they're going to have lawsuits coming from absolutely everywhere. So where does it get its content? The internet. It basically has read all of the internet and it's able to use that to generate the information. Corolla says, I'm a little confused about the AGI concept now, even though I study artificial intelligence in uni. There are lots of definitions. The thing is, we haven't got there yet, so it's hard for us to define it. And the weird thing is we'll probably pass by it being born and we won't necessarily know. And then we'll look back a year or two later and be like, oh, that's when it started. But it's hard to pinpoint exactly what it is because the definition is relatively, I mean, I'm looking at Wikipedia, I'm sure there's better definitions, but the definition is relatively broad. It is a type of artificial intelligence that can perform as well or better than humans on a wide range of cognitive tasks. That's pretty broad, because even in human, when we talk about IQ, even in human life, the concept of intelligence is fuzzy. Like we haven't been able to define it very well. We use IQ as a proxy, But there are different types. That's why people have developed things like EQ, emotional quotient instead. It's very hard to pin down intelligence as a number. So when we're asking, is this AI more intelligent than humans, it's very difficult because we don't really know what intelligence is. So it's hard to make that a strong comparison. Thanks for great tips. More talking, less Duolingo. That was in reference to a question about how can AI be used in language learning. So personally, as I speak a number of different languages, and the way I always learnt was just by going out and talking and making a fool of myself. And that was how I was able to progress quite quickly in a few languages. Whereas I think a lot of people just get their phone and they do Duolingo because they feel like they're doing the work. It feels very productive. But in reality, it's a game, basically. What's the best the best AI for Excel formulas and so on. So it's not there yet, but Microsoft are putting AI Copilot into Excel. They only really released it in November though, so it's 5 months old. It's relatively new. You can have ChatGPT write formulas for you, which you then plug into Excel. It's fine. It's not ideal because it doesn't have that direct connection. It isn't using Excel itself. So that means you need to plug in a formula. And then if it creates errors, you need to feed those errors back to ChatGPT. And then it will be able to refine them and give you a better answer. This will be made better, I imagine, in the next 6 months because Copilot is being directly integrated into Excel. So ultimately, it will be Excel will have AI. How has your prompt engineering involved? Philly Thrill. Yeah, that's hard for me to say because I can't say my T's properly. My prompt engineering is involved. It's become easier because AIs have become smarter. So originally you had to really work to create a very good prompt. Now AIs, or in general, GPT-4 is much better at understanding what you want to do. It still has limitations. So mainly prompt engineering now is knowing what those limitations are and being able to work around them in order to communicate with an AI best what you want it to do. So it's become easier because the AIs are less stupid, but there are still limitations you need to work around. So I would say they've become shorter, my prompts, whereas before they used to be extremely complex, and now they don't need to be as complex because a ChatGPT will better remember custom instructions, or it will better remember information you gave it prior to a particular prompt, and it can feed that context in. So it will know what you're looking for without you having to specify it each and every single time. Oh, Corolla says it's 9:40. What time's it here? Okay, yeah, it's nearly 1 here in London, so that makes sense. No, it's not that early. Yeah, so Wandering Soul is saying ChatGPT has already passed the Turing test. We blew past it and it became irrelevant. And AGI does not have a set definition. Wandering Soul is 100% right here. This is why it's so hard to tell if we've got there or when we'll get there or when we would have got there, because there isn't one solid definition. And as long as it's based on intelligence, it's quite difficult to work out what that definition is. And I agree with the Turing test. I mean, sometimes you can set up a chatbot to sound just like a human, and a lot of people are not going to notice the difference. Customer service chatbots, for example, I imagine they have passed the Turing test many, many times over. Did you see the new 01 demo? Their product can use a computer. No, I haven't. Let me have a look at that. So when we're talking about this, okay. Oh, it's Matthew Berman video, Open Interpreter 01 Lite. Okay, off to Hugging Face to grab this one. So there's a concept in AI in general of an agent. Once we have AI agents, they are able to more completely take over our computer or take over whatever software we give to them, and then they'll be able to do their own work using the tools that we give them. And what Josh Smith have just sent me is an AI that seems to do this. So AI01.ai is founded by Dr. Kai-Fu Lee, a venture built by Sinovation Ventures AI, blah, blah, blah. Okay, they need to hire a marketer. I'll check it out. Chinese startup, open source. Very cool. I will check it out and have a play around with it. It looks like the demo came out yesterday. I mean, it's so hard to keep up with AI news. I try. I mean, this is kind of my full-time job, and even then, there's a lot happening. The OpenAI board basically say they will know it when they see it. Wandering Soul says, yeah, this is like, what's the name of that case where, I've forgotten it, but there was an American law case back in, I think, the 60s about pornography. And they had to try and define what pornography actually was, or what was explicit material. And at the end, the judge was like, I know it when I see when I see it. Like, that's porn. But that's probably the case. Like when we get to AGI, we'll probably know. And that's going to have to be the benchmark for us. Yeah, and Wandering Soul is saying the Turing test is a hypothetical idea. It's no longer relevant. It's also a hypothetical idea from the 1950s, before computers were, I mean, they were being invented, obviously, because it's Turing, but before we had the technology we have today. So it was a mind test back then, a hypothetical. Oops, that just jumped down. There we go. Yes, Brad is saying, I recommend listening to the Lex Friedman podcast with Sam Altman, some good insights. So earlier this week, I think it was Monday or Tuesday, Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, he sat down with Lex Friedman and did a 2-hour podcast. Sam doesn't normally do these kind of long form podcasts, and he's quite closed usually. But in this podcast, he talked about everything. He talked about the Elon Musk lawsuit. He talked about Ilya, one of the co-founders, leaving. He talked about getting booted from OpenAI and then coming back again. He talked about GPT-5. He talked about AGI. It's a very open interview, so it's worth checking out. So it's Lex Friedman and Sam Altman. What's the best way for AI to write short articles for my business? Asked Red Dog. So there's a question of intention here. Is this for SEO, i.e. getting to the top of Google? Or is it, I mean, what are these articles being used for? If it's purely for a blog, for search engine optimization in order to get to the top of Google, there are some SEO writing tools out there. I would say, however, that it's a risky venture because not AI, Google is currently in an existential crisis where they need to work out how to detect and demote low quality or any AI content potentially, because 80% of their ad revenue comes through search. So 80% of their revenue total comes through search. Without search, Google dies. All of the other cool things, you know, Android, Pixel, AI that they're developing, all of that is kind of secondary to their main moneymaker, which is search. People going onto Google and searching for information. That whole business is at risk because of generative AI. Because why would we search for information when an AI already has that information and can package it up nicely for us? So potentially Google, the whole paradigm of searching the internet, which we've had for 20 years, could be at risk. We might be using the internet, or the internet might look different to what it is right now. In 5-10 years, it could be totally different, and Google could be gone, which to us now is like, no way. Like, there's no way. They're Google. There's no way they're going to be in trouble. But because of this, Google are releasing content updates, useful content updates, that's what they're called, where they are trying to demote or sorry, not demote, derank pages that use AI generated content. They're still very vague about what uses of AI are allowed. They're saying as long as it's useful and as long as it's valuable, it's okay to use AI. But at the same time, they are aggressively attacking pages that are using AI to generate huge amounts of content in order to game Google and to rise to the top of the pages. And I would imagine once they work out how to, if they work out how to recognize AI content, they're going to be a lot more aggressive because it is such a threat to their to the search ecosystem. Because if the internet is just full of AI generated content, that makes their search algorithm less useful. We saw this with Yahoo back in the day, where Yahoo started to allow people to buy top results, but they didn't reveal that it was a top result. Therefore, trust in people would go into Yahoo, they were clicking on the page because they thought it was the best information that answered their question. They would go to that page, it wouldn't be, and they lost trust in Yahoo. And this is what allowed Google to ascend as well. So sorry, this is a very long contextual answer, but I would say if you are using AI to write short articles for Google specifically, be very careful, because Google are trying to stop that as a practice to help you rank. So what I generally say is, with all writing, people don't like to hear this, it means more work, but with all writing, use AI as a tool to help you with the ideas, to help you with kind of the structure, to help you with maybe the first draft, but then you go ahead and you do the manual writing yourself, and maybe you get some editing suggestions, use AI as a copy editor to give you ideas about how you can edit it as well. But ultimately, you are still writing it, or a freelancer is writing it for you, rather than relying on AI to write it for you. That's generally what I recommend, because that is a more sustainable option. Because if you produce 500 articles for your website using AI, which you can do with a click of a button, it's very easy. But then a month later, Google sees that and it's like, nope, slap, and they banhammer you and they send you to the bottom of Google. It's a very high risk, very high reward endeavor. And if you're running a business, you might want something a bit more sustainable. So use AI as a tool to help you structure, help you come up with ideas, write it yourself, add personality, do video if you can, because people love video and you can be more authentic, and use that, use AI to augment it rather than just replace a writer. "60% of admin type jobs will be replaced within 10 years, asks John. Where's the 60% coming from? But I wouldn't be that surprised. So Goldman Sachs did some big research on this. But this was a year ago or so. Goldman Sachs. Basically, Goldman Sachs went through all the job categories and looked at which ones were the most at risk. And the top one was admin, followed by, I believe, here we go. Estimated share of employment exposed to AI automation. So they have it as 46% of office and administrative support will be exposed to AI automation, i.e. taken over, followed by 44% of legal, mainly in discovery and going through documents, kind of the lower end of legal, followed by 37% of architecture and engineering, 36% of life, physical and social sciences, 35% of business and financial operations, management 32%, etc., etc. So it tends to be the white collar jobs. It tends to be the ones that deal with the digital space rather than the physical space, and it tends to be the things that can be turned into an algorithm, so a set of steps, rather than something that's more chaotic. So this chart that I'm seeing is saying 46%. So things like scheduling, meeting, writing reports, and data input will be fully automated in the future. This, as I said, was published last year, so I wouldn't be surprised if that estimate has been revised upwards to 60%. But basically, the fact that it's called an admin job kind of is the giveaway here, because that means it is something that is generally repetitive, and it can be turned into an algorithm. Anything that can be turned into a set of steps is at risk of being oh, thank you, Shona, for the heart. Oh, it's gone. Anything that is a set of steps can be quite easily automated using an AI, or I mean, you can even automate it using processes that don't require AI at the moment, but AI is just going to make it a lot easier. So James Taylor is asking, can I feed massive data sets into AI? Like which ones? So if you're wanting to use an off-the-shelf model, Gemini Pro, you can give it up to 1 million tokens. So a token is not a word, but it's kind of similar to a word. So let's just say it's about 1 million words worth of information you can feed into Gemini Pro. That's a paid model, but it's off the shelf. If you're looking to do something more specific, I'd say deploy your own model on your own computer, and then you can feed in data sets. There's loads. I would recommend checking out Mistral, Mistral, Mistral.ai. Honestly, it depends what you're trying to do with the data, because there's different models for different uses. I have an assignment with different questions that requires browse searching. What is the best AI for this assignment? I don't generally recommend using it for homework, but the answer would be Perplexity. I think you asked above about what's the best AI for assignments. It would be Perplexity, because it gives you the sources, and then you can chase down the sources, make sure that the sources are legit, and then reference those sources. Again, don't just use Perplexity to generate the answers, but use it as a first step in your research to help you basically find what information is out there, to intelligently structure your questions, and then follow what Perplexity shows you in order to get to the raw information. Oops. Oh, the law student says you recommended an AI for students earlier on. Can you repeat which one it is? Perplexity. Perplexity AI is very good. For law, I don't know. Actually, that would be something really useful. So your account is the law student. That would be, if you go and test Perplexity and see how good it is with law and feedback to us, that'd be really useful, because that's not something I've tried it for. You might find it's rubbish. If so, that's useful for me to know. So tell me, please. James is saying, how do I feed a CSV data set into AI for it to analyze the numbers? It's relatively simple. You just need an AI that allows uploads. So GPT-4, the paid version of ChatGPT, will allow you to upload a CSV file, and then it will analyze the numbers from there. It's going to depend on the size of your data set. So the AI models we have now have limited context length, a limited memory that you can feed into. So if the data set is humongous, it's just not going to be able to do the job, and you'll need to deploy your own model or use something like Gemini Pro, which allows a lot more data to be fed in. So have a look at that. Thank you, Shona, for the heart. I think, oh, Shona, you are now the #1 gifter and #7 member on the team. Because I'm so new on TikTok, I don't really know what that means, but thank you for gifting. Maharaja asks, how is plagiarism dealt with AI? Is that as in detecting whether AI is plagiarized? Because by definition, it kind of is, unless you fed it your own data set or you're using a private data set. It is technically plagiarizing the whole of the internet. But this brings up questions on what plagiarism is, and how is it any different from when we look up information and then remix it in our own way, which brings up questions of what is creativity. So it starts getting very gnarly at that point. Or do you mean how is plagiarism dealt with, as in you create something, can people check if it's AI? Because generally AI detectors aren't very good, but I recommend to students, and I recommend to everybody, use AI as a tool for drafting, but then write it yourself, because that's how you learn things generally, even if I'm a bit old-fashioned. So I write a newsletter every day, which is 1,000 words, and that has allowed me to create things like this book. So Start a Business with ChatGPT, which is number 3 in the charts for web marketing at the moment on Amazon. It is $2 on Amazon Kindle, or the paperback version, which is 350 pages, is about $10 because I need to pay for the printing and the postage. I would make it cheaper. I've made it as cheap as possible to get it out to as many people as possible. If you do have a copy, please leave a review, because I've sold hundreds and people still aren't reviewing it, and that'd be really useful, please. James Taylor, feed your data into a RAG system, then query the data by using an open source LLM. Yeah, that would be the best way to do it. If you don't know what any of that means, James Taylor, then use a off-the-shelf tool like ChatGPT, paid version, or if your data set is too big, use Gemini Pro. There is a wait list for that, though. So yeah, if you read this, feed your data into a RAG system and then query the data by using an open source LLM, and you're like, what? Then use an off-the-shelf system. It's fine. Northern Lyric says, hi, I'm a singer-songwriter. Does it help with lyrics? Yeah, Yeah. What I would say with any purely creative task is make sure you give it raw material to work with. You can go to ChatGPT and say, hey, write me some lyrics about, I mean, whatever, water bottles, and it will do that. And you can say, I want it in this kind of structure. I want, chorus, verse, refrain, whatever. And it will be able to do that. I think it could even do things like time signatures or rhyme patterns. Because I know it can do sonnets, Shakespearean sonnets. So it can do all of that from scratch. However, what I would say with any creative endeavor is if you give it some raw material to start with, so you literally go to ChatGPT, and you can do this on the spoken version. So you press the button on ChatGPT and you talk to it and you say, hey, ChatGPT, I'm writing a song about sparrowhawks, and I want to capture their essence about blah, 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 and I've got some words I want to include, and I love the rhyme between sparrowhawks and, God, I've walked myself into a corner here, sparrowhawks and whatever rhymes to sparrowhawks. And then ChatGPT will be able to take your initial input, your initial kind of raw thoughts about what you want in your song, and form that into lyrics. And that's going to be a much better quality output than if you just said to it, write me a song about sparrowhawks. I would recommend using Claude if you are in the US or the UK and not in the EU, because I think it's not in the EU yet. There's a different model called Claude, Claude. I personally find that Claude's outputs for kind of creative and written outputs tend to be a lot better than ChatGPT's, which are more robotic sounding. Alana Rose says, which one is best for resume writing and job search? I believe there are specialized ones, and I've heard of one. Kick Resume. I've heard Kick Resume is good. I have not used it. I do not have a resume. The other day we were pitching to do some training, some international training, and we were asked, can you send over your resume or your CV? And I'm like, because I don't have one. I haven't had a job for decades, so I don't have a resume. So we had to quickly patch something together, and we got the gig, so it was fine. But I heard that Kick Resume is good. I believe it uses GPT-4. Yes, it uses GPT-4 underneath. You could do it yourself without having to pay Kick Resume, but I would say for the price that it is, how much is it? $7 a month or €7 a month. You can go in, you can write your resume, and that's probably going to be fine. So I check out Kick Resume. I haven't used it. This is not an endorsement. I've just heard it's good from people who have been looking for this kind of tool. Yeah, Cerebrum AI is 100% correct as well. You can just take your current resume, upload it into something like Claude or GPT-4 and say, please suggest where I can add improvements or find areas of weakness that a recruiter might identify. Or this is a really cool one. You can upload your resume and upload a job description. And you can say, based on this job description and my resume, please write a cover letter. And it will be able to piece the two together and write you a cover letter. And you can get even more funky there, where you give it the CV, you give it your the job description that you're applying for, and you give it a template for a cover letter, and you say, please combine these together. So my resume, the job description of the job I'm applying for, and then fit it into this type of template. And ChatGPT will be able to do that for you. So that's definitely one way to do it. Using GPT or ChatGPT as a coach is also really good. So you can say, act as a career coach. Here is my resume. Please help me to improve it. And you could potentially find a list of questions that a resume coach would ask you. You can find them on the website somewhere. And then feed them into ChatGPT, and ChatGPT will ask you those things. You respond to ChatGPT, and then it will use that to kind of reformat your resume. I would say with ChatGPT, though, any AI, make sure to check afterwards for accuracy, because it might just make stuff up, and you don't want that in your resume. It's a high risk use, so you need to make sure you manually check everything afterwards. Northern Lyrics says, thank you so much. I can use the lyrics to own. Yep. give it a shot with the lyrics and tell us how it goes. I'm curious, are you using Google or asking ChatGPT for the stuff you're looking up now? So for Kick Resume, I use Google. Generally, when it needs to be something that is newer and doesn't require on training data, I would just use Google. But more and more in my daily life, I use ChatGPT. Yeah, Brad, for that current answer about Kick Resume, it was Google. And sometimes I'll be looking up something that I've seen on Twitter, and I'll quickly find it, and then I get a lot of my news from Twitter because there's a lot of forefront of AI people over there. So if I can quickly find that thread or quickly find the resource that they shared, I'm finding it there. But then to find it on Twitter, I use Google because Twitter's search functionality is dreadful. Tisa says, would you just paste your whole resume and the job description in ChatGPT? Yeah, you can do that. As long as it's not too long, you just copy and paste it all in and you ask it to work on it for you. You can also, if you have a paid version, you can upload a file. Same thing, basically, because all it's going to do is extract the information from the file for you. Alana Rose says, thank you. Those are great suggestions. Write a cover letter. Yeah, you can do... I think a lot of using AI is working this kind of stuff out. So whenever I go and train companies, one of their first questions is like, well, what can we use AI for? Which is really hard to answer because it's like asking, what can I use the internet for? Because the answer is, I mean, everything. Like it's such a large, multifaceted tool that can be used pretty much for everything, as long as you kind of tweak your methods. So it's the same with AI. So what a lot of my newsletter is about is once people, the newsletter is showing people of ways to use AI in their business. A lot of them are quite obvious when you hear about them, and then making the prompt is quite easy. But what I'm doing every single day is coming up with these ideas for using ChatGPT. And then 50,000 people who subscribe to the newsletter are like, oh yeah, that's a good use. And they go off and do it. And it's the same with all AI. It's really, once you know, oh, I can use it to write a cover letter, then, oh, I'm being told I'm not here. There we go. That's fun. After an hour, you need to solve a little puzzle on your screen. It's like, great, great. That's exactly what I need. So with AI, it's kind of learning increasingly how you can work it into your day-to-day life. Like a really cool one I did the other day was if you've come home from work, there's nothing in the fridge, you don't want to order takeout again, you're trying to be healthy, you can actually take ChatGPT, take a photo of the inside of your fridge. It can identify what you have and suggest recipes based off it. So it's weird little things like that that you wouldn't necessarily think of, but once you know about it, you're like, oh shit, that's a really cool idea. What else can I use it for? And I think a lot of AI education is that, it's learning what it's good for, what it's not good for, and how we can kind of push that boundary. GPT-4 35. Tom is saying GPT-4 $34.99 per year. Is it safe to use? That sounds like a fake. That doesn't sound like ChatGPT. So ChatGPT is, I think, $20 a month. Yep, still $20 a month. So if somebody's selling it for $34 a year, they might be connected to the ChatGPT API, and then they're using volume pricing to sell you access to that for cheaper. It will be less safe than if you just go to OpenAI and get an official account, but obviously an official account costs $20 a month. So what's that? God, I'm blanking out. $240 a year. Obviously, I think it's worth it. I think it's one of the best tools on earth ever. So it's worth $20. But if $20 is a lot to you, you could look at these third-party tools. I'd be wary though, because they could potentially have access to what you're putting through ChatGPT. If you want access to GPT-4 and you don't want to pay anything, use Microsoft Copilot. So Microsoft Copilot is built on ChatGPT, and it has access to GPT-4. It has access to DALL-E 3, so you can make images, but it's totally free. So Microsoft's version is free to use. I think you need a Microsoft account, but you can set one up for free. Social Purgatory says, I'm kind of apprehensive to use GPT whilst at work. This is a fascinating phenomenon. There goes my Fs again, my Fs, PHs. we have something called shadow IT at the moment, which doesn't normally happen. Whenever a new technology or a new piece of software comes out, generally it's leadership and the IT team who are trying to push it on people at work. And people at work are like, oh, I don't want another tool. I don't want another login. I don't want to have to learn how to use another piece of software. With AI, we're seeing the opposite. What we're seeing is people starting to use it at work because it's so powerful. And then leadership and IT being behind and thinking, oh God, is this okay? Should they be using it? So there's this very weird, I can't think of any other time we've seen it, where it's coming from the bottom up instead of from the top down, which suggests that AI is super useful because it's a piece of software that people actually want to use at work. What I would say is if you are apprehensive to use GPT whilst at work, you should go to the bosses and say, we need a policy about this because other companies are using it. Other companies are getting trained in how to use it because they see the advantages of it. What is our policy on it? Are we a total no, we can't use it? And how sustainable is that? Or are we going to be using it? And if so, can we get some training on what are the right ways to use it? What are the wrong ways to use it? So one of the workshops I give here in London and sometimes abroad get flown out, often one of the first workshops is exactly that, is, okay, what is safe to do? What is not safe to do? What should you upload? What you should you not upload into ChatGPT? And then talking about things like, do not expect it to be perfect. Do not expect it to give you correct answers all the time because it will not. So you need to build that into your workflows and helping people to use AI in a sustainable way. So I think if you are apprehensive to use GPT whilst at work, it's worth having a conversation with the leadership or just kind of flagging it up. I mean, it might be a casual, so what do we think about AI? Just to kind of get them thinking about it, because companies are going to need to think about it because their competitors will be doing so. And the competitors who are using AI are going to be able to generate more cash, they'll have lower costs, and they're going to outcompete the other businesses. So it's good for them to have a think about it, not just for you. Shona, sorry to repeat, but do you have resources on personality rubrics or competence maps in GPT assistance? No, I don't think so. Can you give me a little more context about what that is? And then maybe I'll be able to answer you. Social Purgatory saying this is GPT-4 and how much is it a month? Yep. And then Cerebrum is saying don't upload company information unless enterprise because it's used for training. Even in enterprise, even in the paid version, you need to go and toggle off the hid it away. So there's Teams, which is the highest level. Enterprise is the highest level, and then there's a Teams account, then there's a Pro or Plus account, and then there is the personal account at the bottom, the free one. So even if you are paying for the premium version, you need to go to Settings. Just trying to find it. Settings, Data Control, and then toggle off chat history and training. So even if you're paying, it will by default use it to train their model. That is not the case in enterprise, but enterprise is a really high level. I think you need a minimum 100 employees. I might be wrong about that number. It was 100 or 200 last I heard. So that's much larger corporations. Brad says, which AI thought leaders do you follow? So obviously there are people like Sam Altman at the top, but I would say for AI news, I tend to rely on Rowan Chung and his great newsletter called The Rundown AI. Rowan just kind of knows the stuff, and I use him for I use his newsletter for most of my news because it's so much time to keep up with absolutely everything because there's all these models all the time. For things like models and tools, the Neuron is fantastic. What else? God, I did a post on TikTok earlier, a few weeks ago, where I did list out all the people who I follow. So it's probably the one to look at. Best AI app for iPhone, that would be, ChatGPT. It depends what you're using the AI for, but in general, it will be ChatGPT. If you are downloading ChatGPT on the iPhone, make sure you get the right one. On the iPhone store right now, it's an absolute mess, and I have no idea why they allow this, but people can bid to appear above ChatGPT, so they're paying money to put an advert above ChatGPT so that people download their app by mistake and then get put into a paid subscription. No idea why Apple's letting them get away with that, but make sure you find ChatGPT by OpenAI. That's going to be the one you're looking for. It should be the one that has the most reviews, because it is the official one, but just make sure you find the right one, because there are 10, 20, 50 crap fake ones on there which kind of use similar branding, and they're just there to trick you. Shona says, looking at someone's video and saw their code, it used rubrics to force behaviors and outputs in GPT. Okay, well, with any prompt that you put in, or if you're building a custom GPT, you can always give it a rubric. It depends what you're trying to build. Maybe it's best if you DM me this, because it's a bit more complex, but you would literally write the rubric and then build it into the model and ask ChatGPT to follow that rubric at all times. So it's kind of like hard coding some instructions into it, but without knowing exactly what you're trying to do, it's hard to speak abstractly about that. Yes, I agree. It's very confusing, the App Store. Just make sure it is the ChatGPT app by OpenAI, and you should be fine. Yeah, Shona, shoot me a message. And maybe, yeah, give me an example of what you're trying to do. That should be fine. Okay, I am going to hop off. Wow. There's 85. That's a lot of viewers. Okay. There's a lot of people over on Twitter watching me right now. Say hello, Twitter. It's fantastic. I wasn't planning on staying on this long, but I'm keeping up my streak of doing one stream every single day. So I was just going to hop on and chat. Again, I'm going to do some salesy stuff. Sorry, but here it is. I've got to pay the bills. It's nearly mortgage time. This book right now is number 3 on Amazon for web marketing. It's doing really well, and so thank you for your support. It's called Start a Business with ChatGPT. It's not like your other ChatGPT books, which is just a bunch of crappy copy-paste prompts, but it actually gives you 4 business models that you can deploy, whether you have a business or whether you're just starting out. So it walks you through step by step, combining my 10 plus years of experience in entrepreneurship and teaching entrepreneurship with my MBA and with my use of AI. So I'm trying to find. So we've got things like how to set up a newsletter, and it goes through the kind of software you should use, how to set up your templates, how to decide your newsletter format, how to structure a newsletter. If you're setting up a newsletter business, for example, it's a lot more detailed than just here's a ChatGPT prompt. It's 4 different business models, 250 pages, 350 pages, 350 pages. Wow, I write a lot. And it is $2 on Kindle, or about $10 for the physical book if you prefer that, because you can write it. If you do get it, please leave a review. I'm not allowed to ask you that, but it would be really helpful. And I'm hoping Jeff Bezos doesn't see this and kick down my door and take away my books, but I'm sure it'll be fine. So yeah, thank you guys. Thank you, Shona. Thank you, Brad. Thank you, Amy. I hope you get the right app. And yeah, I'm logging off now. Have a lovely weekend. Enjoy the sun if you're in the UK. I need to go out and have some. Thanks, guys.